305 Fights, where the champions rise. 305 donde surgen los campeones. We're here in the 305 Fights podcast Skype with Dodge Sports, Mr. Mathew Dodge. Mr. Mathew Dodge, welcome to the podcast. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Yes, I'm glad to see you. I told you before, I'm missing our coffee meetings.
As am I. The in-person is cannot be replicated, you know.
Correct. I'm so happy to have you because we've had coaches, fighters, but you're coming from the perspective of, let me give a little bit brief bio about Dodge Sports. Is a athletic management and marketing agency. It specializes in professional mixed martial arts, MMA, combat sports. Biggest names in the UFC, Bellator, nationally, internationally, fight organizations. Dodge Sports is always maximizing the awareness in the market. You guys also do a tremendous job helping 305 and the martial arts community. You're one of our sponsors and one of our team members. It was founded by Mathew Dodge, yourself, and it affords clients a broad spectrum of sports and a platform for sports and entertainment. What else can you tell me about Dodge Sports, Mathew?
Well, I think we built it here in Miami under the foundation of kind of what we stand for and a lot of what a lot of native Miami people stand for, and that's so if you look at our roster, the men and women on our roster, they all stand for the same things. A Miami-based, agency, guys and girls outside of Miami, but we're doing some really fun and exciting and quite honestly very different and cutting edge things with our clients versus a lot of other agencies out there.
Correct. Yeah. One of the things I love about you guys and about you is your quality and your professionalism, and you're helping our quality rise. Like we say, we're champions the quality of martial arts, and not only the technique, but the attitude and the professionalism. So thank you very much.
Of course, absolutely. Thank you.
Let me ask you a question. Educate me a little. If I was not a coach, instructor, and a producer of combat sports coming in, how would you help me start getting into the market?
Yeah, that's a great question. Let's take it from the fighters aspect first. Heading into this, they should try and find a gym that is reputable. Go online and kind of find out some local gyms and test a couple things out. Listen, you don't want to be the best fighter in a gym. So if you walk into somewhere and you're getting worked, that's a really, really good place to be, because it makes you better. So I would say try and find a gym where you feel comfortable, where you think you can kind of excel at and start to really grow, and a mixed martial artist. And then start getting in the amateur ranks. It's really, really important for some of the professionals that I represent today for them to have long amateur careers. They don't necessarily need to be successful amateur careers, but long amateur careers, because that's where you learn, and you don't necessarily have the negative associated with tarnishing your record. So I would say, work as much as you can with local promotions like 305 and get opportunities there to fight mixed martial arts or grappling or no-gi or whatever it may be. Work your way up to where you need to be, and then once the time feels right, turn pro. And once you are pro, it's about standing out. It's about marketing yourself. And continuing to find competitive advantages that make you a better representation than the next guy or the next girl for an organization.
Excellent. And one of the things, if I may add, is because you guys are an example of that, Dodge Sports example is, I would think for me to get with an agent or an agent that you trust and that has concern for you as a person, not just to make you the money, but to watch your image and to take care of you as a human being.
Yeah. In this game, there are a lot of people who have done things wrong, a lot of people who have been taken advantage of. I mean, you could name a couple of the top fighters right now that have had multiple managers. So yeah, that's absolutely something that sometimes goes undervalued, is the trust and the value associated with having being associated with someone who has your back. And truthfully, a lot of that comes from representing men and women early in their careers, right? Where you're actually, as an agency, investing heavily and not recouping a lot of your investment until they make it to the big leagues, which quite honestly could never happen, or could be many, many years down the road. So look, we're an agency that invests heavily in our men and women because, we stand for the right things, and the trust comes with that.
Yes, excellent. Let's get into your roster because you got a lot of things happening, exciting. Let's start with Andre Ewell. He last fought in Texas. He won a decision. We have a video clip showing and whatnot. How's things going for Andre?
Well, Andre is a new dad as of 9 days ago. So congratulations, Andre. Welcomed a new baby boy with his girlfriend, Julia. So the quarantine and kind of the pause on the UFC right now is actually a little bit of a blessing for Andre. During the fight, you're a couple injuries. He had a bucket tear in his knee, as well as broke his forearm in the first round of that fight. So he fought about 14 minutes and some change with a broken forearm and a bucket tear in his knee, and still was able to get a win over a highly regarded prospect in Houston. So we're really excited about what's to come. He's probably going to be back sometime in September or August, assuming the UFC maintains a pretty active schedule with their bookings on that. And look, I think he's probably a win away from being right there, knocking on the top 15 in the rankings. So there's a lot of great things that are happening with Andre, but it's great he could be a dad right now during this time.
Yeah, I saw his son has a little Dice Sports T-shirt. I saw that was nice, and I saw the cast on his arm. That's why I was asking. He's a great young man. He has skills and he has a great attitude. So I'm sure that he's going to be going further. And we'll be looking forward to that. Also, let's look with a young man that I got to meet. You brought him over to the gym, and I got to meet him, and we shared some time and really enjoyed him. Anthony the Genius Romero. He was supposed to fight the 6th at the Arnold Sports Festival in Columbus. Okay.
He did fight.
And he won, I think, 52nd stoppage, correct?
He did. Yeah, 52 seconds, I believe, against the number one ranked fighter in the state of Ohio.
Yes. And we'll she'll be showing a clip of Anthony. He's a great young man. Thank you very much for bringing him by. Spent some time with him. Has a very well-rounded mixed martial artist. Has a lot of skills, and we worked on some angles and stuff and finishing. And actually, he did finish this fight, and he did get those angles. And he is a very smart young man. That the name, the Genius, fits him very well.
It does. He's a quick learner. He's only 23 years old. And as you were mentioning, we were working a lot in this camp, really in the last few camps, on his finishing ability. Because if there's a knock on a guy like Anthony Romero previously, it was the fact that he didn't finish a lot of guys and kind of got a lot of decisions. Many times that's because of the way, his nickname, and that's the way he fights. He's smart. He's analytical. He doesn't take chances when they're not necessary, but he's found a really nice medium to make that happen. And he's finished 2 out of his last 3.
Correct. And he's undefeated, correct?
He is, as a pro, and he's on a 15 fight winning streak if you look back to his amateur days. So he had a long amateur career as well.
Awesome. And the rumor is that the potential UFC contender, maybe phone call coming or something?
Yeah, so we had to turn down a Contender Series fight for him last year. So the UFC has been looking at Anthony Romero for some time now. Since then, he's gotten a couple wins. So he continues with their schedule. They've got a fight in June, fingers crossed, that is supposed to happen in Canada. I think Anthony Romero is a perfect fit for that card.
Yes, like you said, he's young, so he's just a bright new star. Let's move to there's a new young man. I didn't get to meet him. Zachary Powell. Go ahead.
Yes, Powell. Respect.
Okay. That name, Powell.
Truth be told, and he'll tell you this, he wishes it was a cooler story. It just sounds nice, and it sounds cool. And somebody brought that up to him in his amateur days, and it just stuck. And we're marketing it pretty hard because it is a pretty cool nickname.
Yeah. Let me ask you, because I don't know too much about him. What's his forte, his background, grappling, striking?
Yeah, he's a grappler by trade. But so if you look at any of his last professional fights, he's 3-0 as a professional, like that, with a couple black belts. His forte is his ground game. He's a jiu-jitsu whiz. However, he's amazing on his feet too. It's just he has such an advantage right now, currently on the ground. So the majority of his fights stay there. And he did the first 2 fights in his career. They didn't get out of the first round. The first fight, actually, the first 2 fights didn't get out of this. Last fight was a decision, but it was against Ontario, Canada's probably top Brazilian jiu-jitsu practitioner, and he brought him to the decision, and actually had a 10-8 round in there too. So, yeah, I would say you just haven't gotten to see it yet.
Yes, the clips that I did see is. I did see him very well rounded, but I did see him as a Tasmanian devil on the ground. Yeah,
great with the transitions, incredible with the transitions. He works with some really top level gyms there in Canada. He's also a prospect to watch. I'm really excited about Canadian MMA right now. I think it was underrepresented in the big leagues for a long time, and there are a lot of men and women up there that can fight. And I hope that our agency is the platform for a lot of them to get into the big show and show the rest of the
world. You have a lot of stars coming out of Canada. Jasmine, the young lady, that's another one that's really is an awesome star for coming out of Canada. I also just saw that you just signed a Nicholas, I don't know this last name, Maximov?
Maximov.
Yes, he's undefeated. Light heavyweight prospect, so he's a bigger guy. Tell me about him.
So Maximov is a Diaz guy. They don't let that many people in their circle, Nate and Nick. So he trains at that academy and really good friends with the both of them, and really is learning from the best. At the Diaz Academy in Stockton, California, they bring in world champions, jiu-jitsu artists. So Nick is actually a multi-level champion in wrestling. So he's got a significantly strong wrestling background, and then has practiced jiu-jitsu, I think is now a brown belt. And this weekend, this Sunday, in Submission Underground, Chael Sonnen's Submission Underground in Portland. So somehow they figured out a way to put on shows during this time, and Nick is going to be in a really, really highly anticipated fight on the main card on UFC Fight Pass. So if you guys watch, check it out on Sunday.
Oh, excellent. I'm going to check that out. When is that going to be again?
This Sunday.
This Sunday on Chael Sonnen's...
Yep, UFC Fight Pass. It's Submission Underground, probably one of the biggest submission organizations out there.
Correct. Yeah, I did see he has an extensive wrestling background, strong guy. He's got on a winning streak, and I think has 100% rate finishes.
He does. Yeah, we're excited about him. 205, big guys are hard to come by, as you know, Elio. We've talked about that before.
And you know what? Like you said, the Diaz camp is a very well-rounded camp. Diaz could be a professional boxer if he wanted to, could go into professional. So I'm sure that if he's over there, there's a lot of stuff going to be coming really good from him. And I wanted to, last but not least, talk about, I'm very pro-Chinese. Not only you have fighters all over the globe now, you have in Taiwan. Now, why the shadow?
Powell. Basically, the way that Kai fights, if you see any of his YouTube videos or any, is he's elusive, and he's a big Batman fan, a big kind of superhero fan. So the shadow was kind of this alter ego that came from the way that he fights. He's here, and then so the way he fights is very, very, very elusive. He ducks, he avoids punches, and because of that, actually is able to take minimal damage in his fights, which, Ilya, we've talked about this in the past, to have a long, successful career is if you fight smart and don't get roped into these, brawling type fights. So nickname for Kai Will.
Correct. Yeah, I was first. There's a lot of pros. You know, I'm very pro. And we talked about it a lot. That I like when I'm training fighters to train a very good defensive system, hit and not get hit. You know, I'm not into mutual destruction, as I call it. I always say win. I saw that a very elusive. I hopefully I get to meet him. And I also another guy that I saw he's very well rounded, really good strikes, good kicks, really moves well on the ground. Does he have it or what not?
So no, I would say that Kai is a perfect, well-rounded fighter. What's nice about his game is he dictates where the fight goes. You know, he's confident in his abilities. So if he goes into a injury or something like that, then he might take it one way. But he usually dictates the pace of his fights and dictates where they go. So incredible jiu-jitsu. I think he's a purple belt. Great boxing. Has even approached me about potentially doing a boxing fight like Nick Maximov. A lot of these guys want to play in different areas right now and improve their game that way.
I see the industry is really going that way. I know that UFC is going to be expanding into boxing. Oscar De La Hoya has De La Hoya Gold, and I think that's a great that these combat sports are coming together and giving fighters an options. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I'm all for it. I think boxing needs some new blood into it. I think it needs to a little bit more exciting. I think they need to clean up some of the scoring and the judging. I think the UFC might need to start to think about incorporating boxing into some of their events. I think it could be a with the UFC. Look, fight fans like fighting, right? They like kickboxing, they like Muay Thai, they like boxing, they like MMA. I'd love to see them all together.
Now, let me ask you a question. What do you think about what do you feel about the state of the UFC and Ben and all the combat sports at a professional league? What do you think the state is right now?
Well, I think it's very promising news earlier today that the UFC is going to go forward with the event here in Jacksonville, Florida. And it sounds like they're going to be doing events every 3 days, which is amazing. There's nothing on TV right now. There's a lot of opportunity for the UFC to take some market share from a lot of the big sports. So I hope it's forward with this and it's successful and everybody's safe that are involved in it. I think that a lot of the promotions can take notes and like Bellator and One Championships and start to put on their events in a similar fashion and really use this time again in a safe environment and just continue to spread the word of mixed martial arts and how beautiful it is and how amazing of a sport it is, because it really should be on the same level as football is here in America and soccer is worldwide.
Correct. I think the UFC is doing a lot, 100% as much as they can. Do you know why they picked Jacksonville?
He has made the decision that sports are essential business. So sports are in the state of Florida. So because of that, some of the sporting events are going to be here. So the WWE was the first one to do an event after they deemed that, the governor deemed that, and the UFC is just following. We'll see if other states decide to take that same route, but Florida was the theme: sports and essential business.
Is it going to be a non-audience event?
That's correct. Yeah, they're going to still stay with the guidelines of, I think it's 10 people or less in a controlled environment, and they can have people outside of that. So the UFC is going to probably take a page out of Chael Sonnen, which if you watch this Sunday and see how it's set up, they'll probably do a very, very similar thing. 3 coaches in the corner. They're probably only going to have 1 coach, the 2 competitors, the 3 judges, and the referee that are going to be there, plus a doctor. So they'll figure out a way to do it under the guidelines for the UFC, under the guidelines in the state, and they'll figure out a way to do it in a safe way.
And they're also taking a lot of positive things. I was just watching. They had the I'm All In, Dana White and Halle Berry. They're doing that, and I think that was awesome. I think also Joe Rogan is doing something. Let me ask you: is this going to be the 249 card?
It is. It's going to be the 249 card on paper. It's going to be called 249, but the fights are completely different than the original 249. High-level fights on there that are going to be exciting to watch. Just to give you an idea of how exciting the card is, the undercard is Cowboy Pettis. So
Wow.
Anthony Pettis, Anthony Pettis and Sergio.
Yes. Yeah.
Sergio's in Bellator. That's an undercard fight.
Wow. No, and I know Gaethje, the second fight is going to be Henry Cejudo against Dominic Cruz, one of my favorites. It's going to be super interesting because Henry Cejudo is very aggressive wrestling, striking. And you talk about if he doesn't get any more technical than Dominic, the Dominator Cruz. That could be in a main event within itself. Let me ask you, Curtis, thing. And Gaethje, who do you pick?
Yeah, Tony Ferguson's one of those unorthodox fighters. Really figure out what he's going to do next. And I think Gaethje is a little bit more of a predictable fighter. Kind of has a very predictable style. Go forward, throws a really strong overhand, throws a ton of leg kicks. Tony gets better as the fight goes on. He actually gets better once he gets hit. I think that's going to prove well for Tony. Gaethje, he's lost before. Tony's on this incredible streak right now. Now, I do think that it's interesting. Tony was prepared, which is a lot more wrestling focused and grappling focused. But Khabib does good overhand right. It's a lot like what Gaethje has. So I think they're able to get a finish. I think he'll get a finish inside the distance. And my guess is probably it's going to be a submission of some sort.
Yeah. Yes. Did you see that he was scheduled for at home and he weighed in and he made the weight? That shows. Let me tell you, that shows a lot, and that shows that his conditioning is on point. He's ready. Everything, all the points you said. Now, let me ask you a question. Will that be the same fight if he fought Khabib?
Yeah, I think Khabib was going to win that fight. I think he'll grind out and take a fight where he wants to, like I mentioned with Kai Wu. He's so good on the ground, and his grappling is on another level compared to these guys. And I think that Tony Ferguson would be too comfortable in the guard, run out of time, to really be able to pull something and be too comfortable on his back. And you can't do that with a guy like Khabib, or you will lose. I think if that happens, Khabib wins that 1-10.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, no matter who you are, you cannot be on the bottom of Khabib. And also, important. Khabib just looks so much more stronger. In combat sports, even though there's strategy and tactics, and I'm a very strategic and tactical person, but versus difference in martial arts, combat sports, percent to 70 is a very physical sport. Strength, conditioning, the capacities are very important. I just see Khabib so much. The Henry Cejudo, Dominic Cruz. Who do you got?
So I'm a Cruz fan. I grew up with WEC. I grew up Uriah Faber being my favorite fighter. So Dominic Cruz to me was always kind of this big bad wolf as it relates to Uriah Faber. I'll tell you what, is that Cody Garbrandt wrote the playbook of how to beat Dominic Cruz. And I don't think that Dominic Cruz has got his body has kind of defeated him in a sense. I think Henry Cejudo's operating on another level right now. I Cruz win because I think that I'm not a massive fan of Cejudo. The cringe is really tough sometimes. I think that the better champion is probably Cruz, but in this fight, I think it's going to be a long night for Henry Cejudo wins it.
Well, so far, I'm 100% with you so far. I can't bet against. Did you look at my notes here on my computer? You got Francis Ngannou, Jeremy Stevens fighting on that card, Greg Hardy. Those fights there. What do you think about those fights there?
Yeah, I think Greg Hardy's got a good test ahead of him against Yorgan De Castro. I actually think I'd be from here in Miami, if I'm not mistaken. But that's going to be a good fight to see where he really roster right now. I am very excited about Ngannou. and Rosenstruck. I think that is you're getting two guys in their prime right now. At his record, you might not think that he's super well versed in fighting and mixed martial arts, because I don't even think he has 10 fights yet as a pro. But if you look back, he's got, I think, 80 Muay Thai and kickboxing fights. So he knows how to fight. I don't want it to end in the first 30 seconds. I'd like to see a little bit of skill on both their parts, and see where that one goes. But yeah, I think top to bottom, the card is absolutely stacked. And also, there's a guy that I'm a big fan of, Bryce Mitchell, Arkansas, I believe. That's the first fight on the card. He's taken on a guy, Rosa, who was, I think, from Florida as well, too. So the card is absolutely full of guys. I wish we had somebody on it, because it's a huge opportunity for all of them, from marketing standpoint, everything that they can to get the word out pre-fight, because there's going to be a lot of eyes.
Let me ask you, Cerrone's fighting on the undercard?
Pettis.
Oh, Pettis. Before?
I'm sure they fought in WEC days. I don't think that they've ever fought in UFC.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. What do you think's going to happen there?
Yeah, you have two guys who are kind of trending downward, right? Right now. Knock on Pettis is that Pettis doesn't have the heart, right? That when Pettis is brought into deep waters, he drowns. But with that being said, has just not looked like himself of late. I think Pettis has a resurrection here and is able to either get a finish late in the third round or win a nice decision.
Yes, okay. Well, I can't bet against you. We're on the same page. I really want to thank you for what you do for 305 Fights. You're keeping our quality and our professionalism. I'm looking forward for continue having you help us become better with better shows and for the community and for all combat sports. Is there anything you would like to say before we end?
Yeah. So, well, first of all, thank you for the platform on this. If there are any aspiring young fighters listening to something like this or affiliated with 305, feel free to reach out to me directly. Our Instagram handle is @Dodge_sports. You can DM me direct 305 that you heard about us, that you heard about me through that, and I'll be more than happy to kind of give you some tips and feedback and maybe help you take your game to the next level and give you some pointers that might allow you to progress your career.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And that's a great point. Also, as from the standpoint of 305 Fights and 305 Fights Gym, we're here to help everybody to rise, like we champions rise, regardless of school, regardless of politics. We're here to make combat sports better and help people surge. I want to thank Mr. Carlos Sande, our producer in Miami Media. Thank you, guys. It was awesome. Life, health, success.